You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends, the entertainment scape of podcasting in the sky, the Big Ten circus of knowledge, information, and just being sexier because you're smarter. I don't know how that all came together. I've been working on that ramble improv for a long time, and it just finally all came into that succinctness. So there you go. All those shows you see me muff it, I finally got it. Welcome to the show, my friends and family. We have an amazing author with an amazing tale, a tale of the high seas, as it were. I think he was a pirate. I don't know. We're going to find out. But this has something to do with high seas, old ships, and a life on a path less traveled. And what we can learn from that, because I think we all love adventure and stories and all that good stuff. Because if you don't, why the hell are you listening to this show? I mean, that's all we have is brilliant authors, brilliant people on the show, and none of them are me, of course. That's why we have them on the show as guests. See how that works? Anyway, guys, we just launched our new AI podcast. We have a lot of AI automation, generative AI people and authors on the show for years now. We've had them on the show and talking about AI, all this stuff going on with artificial intelligence. We just launched last night a new silo, or what we would call I forget what the term is for it. A new starts with a V. I can't fucking work. It's Monday, people. Give me a break. Anyway, we launched a new show. It's AI Podcast with Chris Voss. We've ported a bunch of the shows over there. It's a new vertical. That's the word I was looking for. And it will be a show specifically designed to interview CEOs, thinkers of AI and artificial intelligence. So if you get a chance, go search it. You can find it at AIChrisVoss.com. or the AI podcast with Chris Voss. You can find we've ported a bunch of the interviews we've already done over there. And we'll also still be doing those AI interviews on the Chris Voss Show because it's the big god beast of all of our podcast verticals and all that good stuff. So check that out. He is the author of the amazing new book that has just come out April 18th, 2023. All Hands on Deck. A modern-day high-seas adventure to the far side of the world. I think there should be like a thing there that goes, the far side of the world. I can't do that with an echo or something like that. So we'll fix that in edit. No, we won't. Will Sofrin is on the show with us today, and we're going to be talking to him about his amazing life and adventures and a story that, man, there's not a lot of this going around. There's not a lot of people running around ships on the high seas from, these old ships and stuff. We're going to find out his adventures of what he did. He is the guy who didn't follow any of the rules. Instead of attending college after high school, he became an apprentice shipwright to learn how to build and restore wooden yachts. As an apprentice, he studied the mechanics of wooden boats and naval architecture. And after completing his apprenticeship, he became a professional sailor, predominantly working on luxury wooden sailing yachts. He worked for years rising in the ranks and eventually became a licensed captain, all while tracking over 25,000 blue water miles as he sailed throughout Europe, New England, the Caribbean, Central America, and the California coast. He sailed some of the most famous yachts in the world and participated in the numerous world-class sailing events such as America's Cup Jubilee, the Product Classic Yacht Challenge, and the 12-meter World Championships. And if you're not jealous enough by now, by his story, we have him on the show live. Welcome to the show, Will. How are you?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm having an awesome Monday morning.
And it's awesome to have you. Welcome to the show. Congratulations on the new book. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
www.willsofrin.com, willsofrin.com.
There you go. And welcome to the show, Will. So tell us a little bit about your history. Let's talk about your childhood and why did you make the choice to go into this? It seems kind of weird to be like, hey, wooden yachts, like everything's made of steel and, aluminum nowadays and all that good stuff. Tell us a little bit about what got you down this road. Why did you make the choices you made?
So, I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut, sort of imagine a picturesque John Hughes movie setting scene, suburbia, utopia, clubs. And, I didn't really have a direction in high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. College, there was a lot of looming pressure what I was going to do after. And both my parents had dropped out of college themselves and gone back later in life. And they were very supportive. They said, we see that you don't know what you want to do, and we don't want you to just go do that because you feel like you've got to. So we would go take these weekend vacations, and we ended up in Newport, Rhode Island, and there was this new boat building school. And they said, you know what, why don't you give it a try? Why don't you pick up a trade? Do it for a year. If you don't like it, we'll still help you get through college, but you're going to develop this skill set that, has been around for thousands of years. The world's always going to need carpenters. So
did you have as a child, did you have an affinity to ships? I think we all kind of do as young men.
I agree. I loved Popeye as a kid, and and
you like spinach?
I love spinach. I love spinach. My daughter doesn't get it.
We won't hold that against you, but go on.
And in high school, I was making a lot of money as a barback, and a friend of mine, his sailboat got wrecked in a storm. So I bought it from him for a few $100s and tried to fix it up and enjoyed the process.
Yeah, there's nothing like a sailboat. Well, there's probably something like. You've been on big yachts, but we got a sailboat when we were young that we bought off a friend who'd sunk one, and it was so fun to sail and not hearing the engine, being out on the water at night when it's quiet and you can see the lights of the cities coming across. There's something about it.
I agree. It's you are in control of getting yourself from A to B. In so many ways today, we're just the passengers other than driving your car, but you get on a plane or a train. And I think that's where sailing a ship like the ship I sail in the book is so romantic for people, because they are the driving force.
Yeah. And it's a work, you got to keep that thing going. You got to catch the wind at the right directions and, move the oars and the boom and all the working parts. And it's almost like an art form when it comes down to it. And it's such a romantic, beautiful thing until the wind dies and your engine won't start. You're back
but sometimes good things happen at those moments. I was sailing up from the Caribbean, and we had 3 days of no wind, and in the middle of it, whales came up to the boat. And
really?
We just actually donned our snorkel gear, threw some lines in the water, and jumped in, and I went swimming with whales. So
I'm quitting my job, and I'm going sailing. Damn it! You're giving me I'm starting to question my whole life right now. So you go on this journey, and you get into the business. Do you fall in love with it immediately? Does it take a while for it to catch for you?
You know what? I fell in love with it immediately. I had such a hard time in high school, and I don't know, it just using my hands, learning how to shape wood and bend it and make these beautiful yachts, which are really just, these elegant machines. To me, it was great. But while I was learning how to build boats, I'm living in Newport, Rhode Island, and I start getting invited out to race on sailboats and have fun, which leads to me getting paid. And wait a minute. Once I found out that I could get paid to sail on boats, that was it.
I can get paid for this?
Yeah.
Awesome sauce. So then where does it go from there? And you tell this tale in the book, of course. I think would you call this kind of a memoir?
Oh, I definitely would call it a memoir. It's I'd say it's an adventure travel memoir about how and why and where it took me. After I finished my apprenticeship, my first job was to go race over in Europe on a yacht I helped restore. So when I was 21, I was living on the French Riviera and racing sailboats, and it was great. But like all good things, the job came to an end when the season came to an end, and I returned back to America without a job or a home. And that put me in a position where I didn't really have too many choices, and I needed to hop on another boat as quickly as possible.
So would you call yourself a modern day pirate?
Yes, I would. I would call myself a modern day pirate for sure.
There you go. So, how do you get into this? I think maybe a large part of this is the story of what you do with this boat. Tell us about how you get involved with this whole big boat that you end up sailing around.
So I end up back in Newport, and I've got no job, no direction. And the captain of the boat I've been working on was kind enough to let me crash at his house. But I think he realized that I was going to milk that till it was dry. So, so he sent me down to a tall ship, which is, these sort of old pirate looking kind of ships. And it was literally the antithesis of all my career ambitions, but I had no other option. So I had to do it. And the ship had just been bought by 20th Century Fox. And the first mate offered me a job and said, "Hey, do you want to sail to California and make a movie?"
Ah. And those ships have a romanticism too. I mean, as boys, you grow up with thinking about pirates and playing pirates and stuff as a kid. I remember we used to dress up and have like fake swords and ahoy, matey, and all that stuff. Whatever. We love pirates movie. I grew up in that golden age, and maybe you did, of Pirates of the Caribbean at Disney. You could ride the big ship at Disney. And so for me, growing up in California, that was a real big fantasy. I remember a few years ago, I went down to Dana Harbor. Is it Dana Harbor? The
Dana
harbor.
Point?
Yeah, at Dana Point, the harbor at Dana Point. I used to love to go down there and shoot with my camera. But there's a couple big ships down there, I think. And I think they have like a once a year sailing of the big ships, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's just a romanticism. There's a feel, there's a textile to them that's very different than, looking at some big steel yacht. And I'm not discounting them. I'm just saying they don't have that romanticism, that whole high seas, old world, and there's an interesting thing where people use those ships to pioneer. You're like, that was it. They didn't have motors and gasoline and shit. It was like, well, fuck it. We got to use the wind.
Well, like to the point that you're saying, this ship that I sailed on, 200 years ago, it was the most advanced technology in the world. It was what Elon Musk is sending to space today.
Yeah.
These ships you're going to go across the horizon to a place we've never been, and maybe you'll come back.
Yeah. They didn't have GPS, you had some idiot with some map that you hope was right. And everybody's got scurvy and you're looking at things through a thing going, I hope we figure out where the hell we're going. And back then, when Columbus and I guess other people sailed across the ocean, they really didn't know where they're going. You're just like, I hope we find land somewhere, eh?
Oh, when Columbus sailed across, there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of anger building on the ship, and he was just kind of like, "We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there." And there was talk about mutiny and a lot of sort of fending that revolt off. And he really was just saying, "No, it's right around the corner. I promise." But he had no idea.
Yeah. So tease out of some of the ups and downs. It's billed as a unforgettable journey of gripping story of fans who adore O'Brien's novels and the dramatic film adaptation of Master and Commander. You go through a lot of ups and downs. You tell the stories about the book. This is no simple ride across the water. So you go through some shit.
It's no pleasure cruise. Try and think I think the best way to look at this is imagine a modern Princess Bride set on a giant pirate ship that's 180 feet long. And you've got 30 men and women living on the ship together, which really sets the scenario up. And when I say living together, everyone's living together, sleeping in the same space, getting dressed together. So decency was expected, and there's courtesy, but it's the way the ship always works. So you've got this, we're all colleagues, but we're also cooking each other dinner or washing dishes or cleaning our bathrooms. And that just set up a great opportunity for us to bond in different ways that maybe most colleagues don't get to bond.
Plus, you have to get along, because if you don't like somebody, you can't leave. You can't just be like, I'm going to leave and go walk across the water. Jesus tried that with the apostles. Most people know that story in the Bible. He's actually trying to get away from those dudes because they're always bugging him and, humping his leg. And he's like, why don't you guys leave me alone for a second? I'm going to walk on the water. But no, it's kind of a community in of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it becomes a community, and as much as you could try and discourage romantic relationships, that's going to happen. And then, as you kind of bring up, we go through some intense experiences. We sailed through a hurricane strength storm where the ship is really teetering on the edge of sinking. And I found out later on that a lot of the senior sailors on the ship really kind of made peace with God. But I was 21 and too naive to realize I enjoyed all the big waves and had a good time.
Did you meet any sea monsters like I used to dream about in the day when I used to read like Moby Dick and what was the one sea monster, Cthulhu or?
Oh, I got a good sea monster story.
Oh,
we are sailing up the coast of Mexico at night, and we're up in the rig, okay? Because on a ship like this, you have to climb up to set the sails and trim them, and look down at the water, and there's this giant light tube rushing through, zigzagging around the ship.
Wow.
And what it was whales swimming through dinoflagellates with bioluminescence, this sort of algae that lights up. And that's when we saw these tubes lighting up at night. So
is that the stuff they have out at Catalina?
Yeah.
At a certain time of year.
Yeah. And actually, I think it was 3 years ago in Newport Beach here, someone had some great footage on YouTube where you could see these tubes of light and water.
I've always wanted to go out to Catalina Island. I love Catalina Island. I get the weirdest deja vu out there. And I feel so at home on that island more than any place on the planet. And I've always wanted to go out there and see that. And somehow I need to put that back on the schedule. So how many months do you run this this course of taking this boat?
So the thing about taking the ship was it was a really fast, aggressive journey. First off, when you're sailing a boat, you spend a lot of time preparing it. It's this working machine. You've got to get it in tip-top shape. So we spent 2 months, everyone working to get the ship ready. And then the actual being underway was 36 days to go 6,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. So we started in Newport, Rhode Island, go down to Puerto Rico, Panama, then transit the Panama Canal, and then continue north on the western seaboard till we reach San Diego.
Yeah. This is a different kind of job. It's not like my job where I'm indoors and I never see sunlight and you have to take lots of vitamin D. You're out in the elements, the spray, the salt, the sun, the weather. Absolutely.
I mean, I was in love with yachts, being a yachty. I mean, I was excited to wear khakis and polo shirts, and being on a ship like this, it's different. You have to wear a big knife and you're covered in tar, so it's dirty. Yeah. And it's not like a yacht where you've got autopilot and everyone's eating ceviche for dinner and having a glass of wine.
And there's probably a lot of smell too, between sea salt and old wood and
30 people and no showers gets pretty stinky.
Wait, they didn't have showers?
You weren't supposed to shower while underway.
Wow.
Because there wasn't enough water for everyone to take a shower.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to get scurvy. Everyone's got to have water to drink too. I read about that scurvy a few times. But I read the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner too, which is a great poem. No, and Iron Maiden song as well.
Great song.
Yeah, that's what got me to read it. I was like, wait, this sounds like a poem somewhere. I dug it up. But the story of the sea and the adventure and the high seas, and I think the risk of it is some of the thrill, is it?
I couldn't agree more. There is that absolute risk where you're out there because you've got to defend on yourself and also those people that you're not getting along with that are part of your crew members. And in those tense moments, I do have to say, when we're bored and we've got all the time in the world, it's really easy to nitpick. But when it really came down to those tense moments, differences were put aside, and it was amazing to see how people will step up. And I didn't care about the people I didn't like; I just knew that I could count on them. And that was, I think you got to kind of be in sort of one of those dangerous situations to experience.
I'd have to learn to get along. I'd be the guy that end up they'd have a mutiny on me and make me walk the plank or tie me to the mast. That would be me. I'd be like, he's an asshole. Just send him overboard.
I don't know. I think
you do that anymore? Is that still legal?
Keel hauling, sending people over? No, it's no. Unfortunately, it's not. But it is still a hierarchy up there.
Damn it! Note to self. Maybe I won't get into sailing. I don't know. It'd be. We used to do that with the pools in California when we were kids. We play pirates and then we walk the plank. We pretend like the pool diving board was the plank. We'd walk the plank. It's just all the stuff you do when you're kids. But no, there's a romanticism too. And it sounds like you guys go through a lot of adventures. You document it. It's almost something that could probably be a movie.
I think that would be fantastic. I think this would be a hysterical movie. Yeah, we go through all the danger, but then what's neat about this story too is it doesn't take place 200 years ago. It takes place today. So I think it makes it very relatable.
That was the fun thing about the book. When I first saw the cover and they pitched it to me, I was like, oh, this is some old ship pirate story, a thing. And then you realize that it's in modern day adventures. You do this thing and you get the boat to where it's at. And now, was this boat that you were running, was this a boat that was built to be a replica of the old boats, or was it an older boat that had
so that's funny thing. The story of the ship in itself is pretty hysterical. She was built in 1969 for the American bicentennial celebration. But what's funny about it is that in order to get the financing to build the ship, the bank wanted to make sure that, this is a safe investment. So they built the ship so long that she could be a restaurant at the dock.
Oh.
So in a sense, you could kind of say we kind of pulled a bit of a John Candy and sailed a restaurant to California.
I mean, that'd be fine with me. I like food. I think everyone can see that in the camera. So you go through this whole thing. Do you have to... Did you cut through the Panama
We
Canal?
did, yeah. We went through the Panama Canal. On the way to the Panama Canal, we had a big explosion in our rig, and that we experienced what's called the dismasting, where the mast went over. And it's what's neat too is I'm doing this tour to complement the book because we had 3 of us had camcorders on board. So I've got all this footage of the storm and then the mast breaking. And yeah, it was
mast breaking are not good things. I watch those competitive, those sailors that do the competitive stuff nowadays. The billionaires all on the boats. I forget. I don't know what it is, but I see it all the time. And I see those things go over, the mast break off and shit. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not going to work out.
No, and then it happens in the middle of the ocean. You're kind of going, all right, well, we got to figure it out. There's no one that's going to help. So
there's no billionaires in sight. Elon Musk is over trying to get to fucking Mars.
It's not even like the highway. You can't pull the boat over for the night and take a break and take a nap. It just keeps going.
Yeah. And I don't know, I guess nowadays there's good maritime communications where you can call for help if you need to, like GPS phones or something. I don't know. Yeah,
there is. There's a lot of resources out there, but still you should plan to be self-sufficient.
Yeah. But I mean, and that maybe that's what the real character building of this is. We talked before the show in the green room about taking life less traveled and talk to me a little bit about that, how you feel about, trying to maybe set an example or set an influence to people that maybe they should consider other options in their life.
Well, so I didn't go to college. I did an apprenticeship, and I got a lot of flack from the kids I was going to school with in high school. They were all convinced and heckling me, telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life and going to be an absolute failure. But I didn't. I'm doing great. I mean, I just came out with this book and my life, I've got a great career. Most of my work is actually in architecture these days on land. But my wife's a pediatrician, and she had to do the opposite of me. She had to do more school than anyone else. And I hope that I've got a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm hoping that when she's a teenager, she's going to read a story like this and feel good about following her passion. I think continued education is imperative. Like, we should all keep learning, but there's a lot of different ways we can find happiness and success.
Oh, most definitely. We had a major shipbuilder on the show one time. He builds all the expensive yachts. I can't remember who his name was. It was several years ago. We had him on the show and just talking about some of the yachts. And you see some of the way these new things are built and the craziness that goes into them, but they're beautiful. They're extraordinary. But I think still when it comes down to it, it's just that feeling of being near the seas and oceans. I've talked about this before on the show. I'm an atheist. I'm a big believer we did walk out of the primordial soup of the ocean or water, whatever you want to call it. And I feel an affinity for the sea when I go down there. I think most of us do. I think that's why we're all enthralled. That's why we all want to live by the ocean. Or water, the most highest real estate will always be closest to the water. And I think we have an affinity for our mother. That's my opinion. And so I think that's why there's a romanticism to it that we keep coming back to it. Like I used to have all the anytime I go overwhelmed by all the problems in the world, I would go down to the beach in California and sit on the waters. And within a very short time, I'd realize that all my matters didn't mean shit. like I'm just like, compared to these waves that have been lapping on the ocean for on the land for eons of time, these tiny grains of sand. My problems are one of these little tiny grains of sand. Just pick it up and just look at it and go, yeah, that's all my little life problems right here compared to eternity, the universe. And but there's something about it, and I think what you mentioned, the character of it, being self-dependent, being self-reliable, being self-accountable, and all of that is really probably one of the empowering factors that make people feel fulfilled, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, going back to where I talked about the passenger thing before, you get onto a ship like this and you get to imagine what it was like to be that explorer 200 years ago. And you're the piston that's making the machine work. And there's a great sense of accomplishment that comes from doing this. And I don't know, I feel when I look around today, a lot of people are staring at their phones or not actively participating. And
you got to see the world too. I mean, you got to see cultures and different people and different lives. Yeah, I mean,
I went from being a miserably poor apprentice with no money where, wait a minute, if I got on a boat, I didn't need rent. I had no bills. They paid all the food. Yeah. So all I needed to do was just make sure I used my tip money for the bar tab, and I was golden. But I got to Europe. I lived in the Caribbean, Central America. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. And chicks love sailors, I think, don't they?
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's kind of like a Peter Pan syndrome thing.
Note to self, I'm quitting my job as a podcast host and going sailing.
I mean, even my wife said to me, we met on Match.com, and the reason why she messaged me was that my profile picture was me on a sailboat, and she thought, well, even if he's a jerk, I mean, at least I'll get a ride on a boat.
How'd that work out?
Honestly, I told her at the end of the first date that she was the one. And
wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Did she get a ride on a boat ever?
Probably. She did. Yeah. The first date was a ride on the boat with a bottle of champagne, and it worked.
My first 7 wives that divorced me told me I took them for a ride on a boat, but it was more of on a boat sort of thing. Anyway, that's a joke, people. I don't have 7 wives. I'm not that crazy. But no, this is good. I think I'm gonna, if I ever had teenagers, I would just send them boating for their teens.
I think I think that sounds awesome. I am a little terrified though for my daughter because I do want her to do this, but then I don't. The thing is, she loves it when it's really stormy out. So we've got a sailboat here in LA, and we sail out to Catalina, which, you mean we're talking about Catalina. It's, as you know, it's great. Sail out. Now, unless there's big waves and lots of wind, she complains the whole time. It's the opposite. Everybody else wants calm seas. She wants big ones.
Wow. Well, I mean, there you go. Catalina is so beautiful. I used to love to go out to Catalina, and sitting on the beach, I would go out at 3. I'm a night person, so I would go out at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. and sit on the beach. There'd be no one out there, none of the damn tourists, and just seeing the lights of Avalon and the whole bay, and just hearing the waves. It's just incredible. The feeling that's out there, and I don't know why I love Avalon so much and the Catalina. It's weird. I used to go there like for weekend jaunts all the time, just to go there and just wander. But it's such a beautiful island.
I got something fun for you. Every year I sail out with a bunch of guy friends, and it gets bigger and bigger. And this year we're actually going to turn it into a formal event where it's going to be a race to Catalina. We do it in October, the first weekend. And there's a disc golf course at the Isthmus. You know what that is? Disc golf? It's like Frisbee golf.
Oh, that new thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to race out on the sailboats, and we're calling it the Lobster Cup because it's opening of lobster weekend. So everyone's going to go dive for lobsters. We'll have a bonfire, play disc golf, drink a lot of beer, and have fun.
That sounds like a riot, man. That sounds like a riot. Sailing is so beautiful, and not having the motors. I mean, I love the motors. I see those those cigarette boats and those speed boats they have in Florida and shit. And yeah, that looks like fun. And speed is fun, but there's something about not having the motor and just feeling the wave and the wind. It's kind of like that moment that I feel when the plane first leaves the ground and you feel it, the wings catch the wind and it becomes airborne. I love that moment in flight where you leave the ground and you can feel the air moving beneath you and the wings catch the air and the magic of flight takes into place. And we had one of the sailboat I got was an old Thunderbird from the Puget Sound, and it was designed to plane, like an 1,800-pound fucking lead keel, I think it was.
Wow.
But it would plane because it was a flat bottom boat. And so it was designed that if it hit a speed, it would lift.
Yeah.
That was the funnest shit in the world, man. That feeling when it would plane. Oh,
that feels so good. And the rudder, everyth's a little vibrating and buzzing.
Yeah. It was crazy. 1,800-pound lead keel, I think it was. Just insane. But yeah, just a beautiful boat. And one day somebody left the head open and sunk it in the bay.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah, evidently it's a little hard to get an 1,800-pound lead keel out of mud. So there's that. But it was fun while it lasted. Anyway, anything more you want to tease out on the book before we go, Will?
Oh, well, I think one of my favorite things about being a sailor is you've got this great camaraderie, and that's where a sense of humor and shenanigans come in.
Yeah.
And I think what makes this book a lot of fun too is I was able to reach out to a bunch of my shipmates and get to catch up with everyone and telling the jokes. And you're going to find in this book, there's some great bar fights, which sailors, right? Bar fights.
There you go.
Just some, we even almost had a run in with pirates, and the silliness of where you're talking about, how fun it is. The romanticism is, I got to sail on a ship with cannons. And we all talked about arming our cannons with screws and nails to defend ourselves from pirates. But I've never since sailed on a boat with cannons. That's cracked me up.
Yeah. That would be wild. I'd be screwing with that. I'd be like, how does this work now? But no, I mean, you see the modern day pirates now, I sometimes like watching the boat videos where they have to barbed wire the boats now and everything from some of those pirates over there. It got out of hand there for a while. I think in the 2000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's over in Somalia. And it was interesting to watch. And these little guys are in these shitty ass boats trying to take on a big boat. And it was kind of crazy sometimes. But yeah, I think there's this romanticism and story about the high seas. What you've talked about too is a little bit about team building, because you're building a community, but you're also building a team that has to be cohesive and be able to have skills and to accomplish tasks. And maybe what you should do, if you haven't thought of this, you've probably thought of it already, is you should have, how these people do these corporate retreats where they try and learn trust building and people what is that thing where they fall into each other and stuff and catch each other or whatever, all those sort of little trust things. Sometimes they just go smoke a bunch of hibiscus or whatever, ayahuasca or whatever in a cut. And maybe you should build a thing where if you want to team build, people have a corporate retreat on, one of these old boats.
Well, a lot of these boats do that. There's when I was first getting paid to sail, it was in Newport, and there's the old America's Cup 12-meter fleet, all these America's Cup boats, and they all have these amazing corporate programs where you can go there and they charter the fleet out, and you have all these sort of corporations where everyone's on board racing the boat together, and you're having fun, you're drinking beer, and you're really racing, and then you have a big lobster bake afterwards.
There you go. The only downside is that one employee that everyone hates, we'd probably make him walk the plank.
Maybe he fell off.
Yeah, that's a great thing about international waters. Seen that movie. All right. Well, thank you very much, Will, for coming on the show. Give us your .coms one more time. So
it's willsofrin.com, WILLSOFRIN.com.
There you go. Will, thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been fun and delightful.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. And I do hope I see you out in Catalina this fall.
I need to put that on my thing. You have resurrected something I've forgotten through all the crazy stuff I do. I need to go back to Catalina. I do want to go see that season with is it the fly fishing? Is it the fly fish, the fish that will actually fly and the water that goes underneath? I've taken the submarine there on Catalina Island and seen, all the undergrowth, and it's so beautiful and so untainted. Hopefully it still is. I don't know.
It is still drop dead gorgeous out there.
good. I mean, it's to go from nasty ass Long Beach Harbor to there, and the boat experience is kind of fun, but I don't have a lot of fun the way I used to go on the bus boat. That isn't quite as fun as what you're doing with going with a small boat. I eventually gave up the bus boat and plus time, and I used to do the helicopter back and forth. That is a fucking fun ride. In fact, I got a few cool stories about that. But we used to do the helicopters to go back and forth. I think back in the day, they go like every 10 minutes to 15 minutes, I think it was. Or maybe it's 10 minutes to fly it. I think it was every half an hour. They do the fly-in. And being able to fly, I recommend this because being able to fly into Catalina Island and see everything from that view is really epic. I mean, I'm not discounting the boat thing.
No. It's another perspective. I love that.
And then being able to fly over the Queen Mary is a total boner. And they have two stops they'll do. They'll stop at the base of the Queen Mary or the butt of the Queen Mary, whatever you want to call it. Clearly, I'm not a maritime specialist. Is it the aft of the Queen Mary? Stern of the Queen Mary.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is the aft? Is that?
It's stern is aft.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And the bar at the Queen Mary is so beautiful, and again, I photographed the shit out of it. I photographed a lot of the Queen Mary actually.
Sounds like you're talking about a real person.
Well, I could be, yeah, that too. I don't know. So, but the other place it lands at another boat on the other part of the harbor, and I forget what it's called. 2 Points. No, that 2 Points is on Catalina. But anyway, so one time we're flying out of Catalina and we go to the other boat area. It's a military boat that's there, and it's a landing spot for the other part of the Catalina service. And the guy goes, "Hey, we're going to go there first, and then drop this couple off, and then we're going to go over to the Queen Mary to drop you off." I'm like, "Okay, fuck it," And so the beautiful part was I was pretty fat back then. I still am. And let's be honest. And so they always make me ride in the front of the bubble helicopter. And so you have that whole view that's just fucking epic. And they always be like, yeah, with your weight, dude, we got to put you in the front. And I'm like, is there a downside? I don't want to be back. Can't see shit out there. And so you can see all the beautiful boats like yours that are probably going back and forth to Catalina Island. You can see just everything. It's such a view. And so we landed and he goes, "Hey man, I got to pull a stunt to get this thing over the Long Beach Harbor, those big hangers that pull the containers off the ship."
Yeah.
There's a whole row of them. We got to get over those. And so he goes, "Buckle up, hold on to your pants. We're gonna do some chop to get over this thing." This motherfucker turns that thing into like Vietnam MASH style helicopterism. I don't even know if that makes any sense. Yeah. But he literally takes that thing, and we're not more than a foot off the ground when he goes into full chop mode. And I'm looking at the front curved legs, and it's almost like a MASH helicopter from the MASH movie. And I'm looking at the curved legs that are 2 feet above the fucking ground when we're almost at a 45-degree angle. And he is jacking this shit because we have to get a lot of up chop to be able to clear these things to go over to the Queen Mary. And it was frightening and it was exhilarating. It was like a drug that I've rarely felt ever. And we made that chop, and I'm sitting there going, we're not going to make those fucking things. We're going to crash into those things. But the way he lifted off, it was just like MASH Vietnam style, man. It was some crazy shit that he was doing with that helicopter. And we rode over, and then the beautiful part was we got to go, what I normally don't get is over the top from the front of the Queen Mary and back, and just being able to see the whole beauty of it. The old dome that used to house Howard Hughes's boat, it was a boat plane. I forget what that was called, but it was so beautiful to see. So I highly recommend people go on that journey with you to Catalina. It's so wonderful. Everything is so beautiful out there, except for Long Beach Harbor. Fuck that shit. Nasty.
Well, now you're making me want to do that helicopter ride for sure.
Oh, you should, man. You should. It's fun to do. The boat's great. But if you ever just want to go out, and I think it's like a 10-minute ride as opposed to the 2-hour ride on the big boat, the bus boat. The bus boat's, it's like riding a bus on the water. It's nice.
They got this crazy new high-speed one that looks like
Oh, do they?
like a cigarette, but like everyone puts on like roller coaster.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. And they get that thing going like 50 miles an hour on the water or something. It's insane. It looks
But it's got to be fun to have like a sailboat in the Catalina Harbor where you're sleeping on the water, right?
Oh man, it was our pandemic hotel.
Really? You did that?
Yeah, that was the whole thing. We would just take a break. I bought the boat with 2 partners, and we just took turns taking our families out. I'd take my daughter out, my wife, and we'd sail out and just snorkel and anchor the boat and just have a blast.
Damn, that's what I should have done during the pandemic, man. That would have been
Next
fun.
one, right?
I'm always jealous of the guys in the who have the boats in the harbor. I'm just like, God, that would be so much fun. And then and then there's that. What's that famous story about who's the movie star who fell overboard?
Oh, right. That like, well, what happened to her, and there's no evidence, then we don't know.
Yeah. So I always say I should note to self: take your enemies on boat rides in international waters. There you go. Anyway, man, it was wonderful to have you on this show. Very fun. Will, thanks for coming on. There you go.
Thanks for having me, Chris. This has been great. And
there you go. And I need to get an affiliate link for the I need whoever owns the helicopter service, you can pay me a referral fee if he takes the flight. But it's fun to do at least once or twice. It's a ride. And to see the Queen Mary in all its glory from above is just epic. I have photos of it. It's epic. And I think I filmed it. I think it's on video somewhere. Yeah.
I love that ship. I mean, having brunch on her is just one of the highlights.
Oh, yeah. Have you done the breakfast buffet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus
it's out of
Christ.
control.
It is. That is like out of control. I couldn't even do that anymore. There was a time where I could. And you see a lot of stars there too.
Yeah.
Like there'll be stars there, but it's epic, the food. And then being in there's something about that Titanic era feel and just walking that boat. I mean, I've spent days on that boat photographing everything. And there's probably like, I don't know, 20,000 photographs I have of that boat. Some of it's just boring and stuff, but the bar is something I always loved. That big, the dining room is beautiful. It's just that romanticism of it. I don't know. It's the whole thing. They still won't let me stand on the end of the Titanic and scream, "I'm the king of the world." I said I was banned from that. I don't know what that means.
It's like every cruise ship captain's nightmare.
There you go. There you go. I'm sure everybody thinks that they should do that, and it is fun with our sailboat. When we were, I don't know if I imagine you've done this, but with our sailboat, we used to hang out over the edge. This is long before Titanic, but we used to hang out over the edge, and just you would see the water crashing under you in the bow, but you wouldn't see the bow, and it was fun. And you just felt like you were riding on the wind and the wave. But there you go.
What I love is that dolphins love sailboats. They like come up and they catch the bow wave. So what I've done a lot is you kind of get down there and you duck under that rail and you try and touch the dolphins when they're swimming up at the bow and pet them.
Oh, that would be awesome, man. That would be freaking awesome. So there you go. A lot of excitement and fun you're going to have. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold. All hands on deck. A modern-day high seas adventure to the far side of the world by Will Sofrin. Available now wherever fine books are sold. Thanks, minus, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, and all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.